go into halftime up 9. What did you see shift in the second half?
Yeah, they called a timeout. We were up 10, tied going into the fourth. You point to the 13 points in the fourth quarter, but it was just, we gave up 73 points in the second half. Had 9 turnovers in both halves. Frankly, we should have had 70 in the first half offensively, and just couldn't keep the ball in front of us.
Specifically with the defense, you just mentioned not keeping it in front, but yeah, they did get to the rim a lot.
Yeah.
Where do you see the
overarching? Yeah, it's so Wemby being on the court. You have to kind of decide how you want to play coverage, whether you want to red. So if he's away from the basket and you're in coverage, let's say, in theory, the 5 would be away from the rim. If you red and he rolls, the 5's away from the rim. We just, the point of attack was not good tonight, and I'll have to look at the film. I turned to Ty, who had the scout today, and I just was like, man, feels like there's no one in the paint for us. It's just very, and that's what I saw in real time, and obviously I have to look at the tape, but just everything was at the rim. 66 points in the paint. I mean, it's tough.
JJ, it's obviously been a very difficult week for the group. What's the balance, in your opinion, in terms of giving grace given the circumstances versus viewing things objectively?
Yeah, I think I always try to give grace to myself, the staff, our players. Doesn't mean you don't critique, and it doesn't mean you don't tell the truth. And we've had, for 3 games now, a real slippage defensively. And we were, for whatever it was, 12, 13 games, a top 10 defense, trending in that direction until these last 3 games. So, we'll review this game. There's obviously some stuff from Dallas and Houston that probably is pertinent to this game as well. And as much as we'll prep Wednesday for Miami in the morning, we'll focus on the group and where we can improve defensively. And that's both film and on the court.
When looking at ways the layoff could affect your group, when we spoke pregame, you mentioned that turnovers was something that could pop up. I imagine you also expressed it to your team going into it. What nature did you see the turnovers, or how were they coming up to affect you tonight?
Some of them that I just remember off the top of my head were, I would describe as careless, and then the other ones, and the ones that, I don't know, just, we talked about personnel awareness as a big key for tonight. Throwing passes in tight spaces when Wemby's around is just not a good idea.
JJ mentioned the defensive slippage. It felt like when their guys were able to get just a little bit downhill, they used their physicality to basically push guys out of the way. How did that kind of look to you? And
there's
what needs to happen to sort of counteract?
Well, there were a lot, particularly in the second half, of middle drives, whether that was after a red or after a closeout. And, there's some teams that are okay with the ball going middle. We're not a let the ball go middle team. And again, I didn't feel like we really had a low man presence. I think Mitch and his staff did a good job based on the last game where we were Redding, and they really tried to take advantage of that with pulling our low man in when we did pull in. If Wemby was in the paint, and they just skip it to the corner, and then you're either giving up a 3 or we just weren't good in our closeouts tonight.
Was it similar to the way that Dallas attacked you? Do you feel like?
No, I mean, Dallas was just straight target hunting, ISO. This was a little more movement, and you know, Vassell and Castle in particular, just I don't even know what they ended up with, but those two guys just killed us.
JJ, after the game, it looked like Wembanyama and Chris Paul walked over and had a moment with your kids. Just as a father, you know, and given this time, what did that mean to you that they took the time to do that?
Yeah, I mean, Chris is like a brother to me. It's funny, we were talking yesterday about our inner circles, and within the NBA, people you've worked with or people you know, people you have a relationship with, coaches, teammates, equipment managers, PR staff, whatever it may be. And you know, in the league long enough, you have this big circle, and it's people you like, people you love, and then it's your brothers. And Chris is in that inner circle of brothers. He called me this afternoon and said, Vic and I are going to go, whether you win or we win, we're going to go over and give the boys jerseys. You know, he's well aware that, you know, they're huge NBA fans, all their basketball cards. You know, that I ran a podcast out of my home for 2 years, and all the players would come through and they'd get their, you know, they're either a jersey or a card signed, and they had a collection of jerseys and cards, and they lost all that. So it was nice of them to do it. They now each have two, because Austin was nice enough to leave a couple for him in his locker after practice the other day. So I just, again, I appreciate all the love, and not surprised Chris did something like that.
Thanks, Coach.
Wow. Give a lot of credit to JJ. Obviously, he answered the basketball questions. I loved his answer on the balancing of, you know, the time right now and obviously the game tonight, and always giving grace. But that message right there, Rob, that's powerful.
Yeah, we've been saying it all night. Sometimes some things are bigger than basketball. And when you have a brotherhood, which is the NBA it's a brotherhood. You know, a lot of us, you know, we have a text chain with the 3-peat champions. I have a text chain with the 2-peat champions. And we text back and forth. And you have bonds with guys that you never thought you would have bonds with. You know, no matter, you know, color, race, religion, basketball brings so many people together. You know, I never thought I'd be friends with a guy from Yugoslavia. I never thought I'd be friends with a guy from Auburn, you know. And it's a true brotherhood, and it's so great that people know what you're going through, and it's always the little things that mean so much. And I guarantee you the fact that those two, that his JJ kids got jerseys from Spectre Victor. Who cares about Chris Paul? But Spectre Victor, you know, that's very special. That's going to make up for a lot of loss that they had.
No doubt about it. You know, all I would add is you forget about the families of the people who lost their homes. You know, JJ, you probably figured he played a decade plus in the league, had a lot of pretty cool stuff at his house, just memorabilia-wise, but his kids too. I mean, that was such a deep story to hear from him. And good job by the reporters picking up on what happened after that game with Wemby and Chris Paul.
Sometimes reporters do good things.
How about that? Every once in a
A
while.
lot of times. You're on this side now, my friend. Don't you forget that. We're going to check out the highlight of this one, obviously. In case you missed it, head out to Crypto.
Lost, the homes destroyed,